The decision to have an abortion not only affects that moment in your life,
Kristen Gordon.
it affects many precious moments to come.
I now pronounce you man and wife.
Please remember, where there's life, there's hope. A message from Priests for Life.
You know, that little commercial you just saw, Precious Moments, doesn't it remind you of, can you think about what abortion has done to our nation? All those precious moments that don't exist any longer. Well, in 1973, most of you heard of the Roe v. Wade decision, with Norma McCorvey, of course, being the plaintiff, and Norma herself never having an abortion, Norma herself being eventually converted to be 100% pro-life. Well, there was a companion case that day called Doe v. Bolton. And the Doe is Mary Doe, who her real name is Sandra Cano. Well, many years ago, when really Father Pavone first started first TV series on EWTN with Mother Angelica, it was called Defending Life. And all the way back, it must have been in about 1997, one of Father's guests was Sandra Cano. Of course, Sandra, has gone on to be with the Lord now. She passed away a few years ago. But the words she said with Father Pavone back in 1997 are so amazing, so similar to even Norma McCorvey's story, that both these women were taken advantage of. So let's take a look back to this episode of the Defending Life show as seen on EWTN of Sandra Cano, the plaintiff in the Doe v. Bolton decision.
Hello, this is Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to our Defending Life series once again. On January 22nd, 1973, two decisions were issued by the Supreme Court of the United States, which literally changed the history of our country. And I have the texts of those two decisions right here in my hand. The Roe versus Wade decision, which legalized abortion, and the Doe versus Bolton decision, a companion decision issued on the same topic, written by the same justice, Justice Blackmun. And these two decisions are to be read together, the court said. They are to interpret one another. And thanks to the provisions of both of these decisions together, from January 22nd, 1973, abortion was legalized in America through all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason. Today, we're going to talk about especially the Doe versus Bolton decision, how it came about and what it means. And to help us to do that, we have a very, very special guest. We have here the woman who was the plaintiff in the case of Doe versus Bolton. A woman who, you will hear for yourself, is pro-life, believes that abortion is wrong and that this decision was wrong. I want to welcome here to our program, Sandra Cano. Thank you, Sandra, for being with us. Tell us a little bit about how you became, it's very few people are plaintiffs in a Supreme Court decision. What was it in your life that happened that brought you to the point of being involved in this case?
Okay, I went to the Atlanta Legal Aid. At this time, my husband was in jail. I had 2 children in foster care, and I was pregnant. And I went to the Atlanta Legal Aid to see about getting a divorce and to see about getting my children out of foster care.
So that was your motive, a divorce and getting the children out of foster care. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with abortion?
No, never have I asked for an abortion or never considered it, even wanted one.
You never considered it or wanted it?
It's never crossed my mind.
Okay, so how did this then unfold into an abortion decision, this Supreme Court case? Well,
I'm still not sure because of everything involved with it, because I'm still in the dark about a lot of things.
Are you really?
Tobang Swartz was the Atlanta Legal Aid lawyer I went to. She said that she would help me. And then she called and told me that she wanted me to come back around. It was about 2 weeks later. She wanted me to come into her office. She had another attorney she wanted to introduce me to that was going to help her. This lady was Margie Pitts Hames. I always assumed Margie worked for the Atlanta Legal Aid. I never known any difference up until later on in the years when I got my records unsealed and I found out she never worked for the Atlanta Legal Aid.
Tell us about going back to getting the records unsealed. In other words, when you were put in touch with these attorneys, were they not telling you what was going on each step of the way?
I never knew anything. I was in such an emotional state. I was young. I was uneducated. I didn't have really any backup with family. And I really didn't know that much about the life. I guess just making a lot of mistakes and unstable. And this lady, she was going to help me do all this and that. And I never questioned her. It's like you're drowning, someone throws your life preserver.
Right.
That's what it was to me.
Right.
I never questioned her. She'd give me papers to sign. I've signed papers. I never knew exactly what I went on and what was involved until years later.
Until years later.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how you came to find out and about this unsealing of the records.
Okay, well, what had happened, I went and I saw Operation Rescue on television. And when I saw this, it's like from day one, since the day I knew that abortion was legalized, I had a big, heavy gloom over my shoulders. It's like a big, heavy weight on me. I mean, it wasn't something to be overjoyed about. But when they announced it on television, I was in my mother's bedroom with my stepfather and my mother. And it's like a heavy weight being carried with me all these years. And I kept it secret. No one knew, what I was involved or anything else.
They did not know that you were the Mary Doe of Doe versus Bolton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I saw Operation Rescue, and I kept seeing these people going to jail, and all. I thought, well, these people are out here doing something that I'm responsible for it. I felt responsible for a lot of this. And I felt like I need to do something. Why didn't I put a foot forward and try to do something? But I didn't want to come public. I wasn't ready to come out and get publicity or anything like that. So how I done this, I had a friend, and I took poster boards. And I painted all over the poster boards, like pro-life, don't kill babies, and save lives. And I wrote, when it's having the abortion clinics down there, when it's having like the rescues, I just kept riding around and round and round with my car. And no one knew who I was. And after I made that step, I felt good. I felt like a little bit of freedom was, coming. So then I went ahead and I started telling people, and I called the Atlanta Journal.
You told people that you were...
I told them, no one wanted to believe it. They wasn't really sure, what's going on. This lady, all of a sudden, we've known her as Sandra, and all of a sudden she's Mary Doe. So I called Gail White. I called Atlanta Journal, and they gave me this lady named Gail White. I talked to her. She told me, she said, we want to do an article. She said, I want to do it what you want me to do.
Right.
And so she went ahead and she put, an Atlanta woman comes forward claiming to be Mary Doe.
Now, what year was this? Of course, the decision was 73. And
okay,
now
this was in the 80s.
In the 80s, okay.
I think around 88, 89.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly. When I done that, then she told me, said, you need to unseal your records. We got to know that you're this person.
Sure.
So I went ahead down to the courthouse, and I wanted to know how to unseal the records. And they said, well, you need to get a lawyer. I said, well, I don't have the money for a lawyer. And so they didn't want to help. So one lady, when I went down there, she covered up the people's name and showed me how a motion was filed. I went home and saw how you wrote up the paper. And I went home and I wrote it up. I didn't type it. I wrote it up. And I filed it with the court. And then about a week later, Judge Forrester called me. And he told me, he says, we're not going to hear this. You get an attorney. And then the next day when Wendell Bird called me, he said, why don't you sign papers? We're going to be your attorney. He and Michael Ferris.
And this is all part of the process of getting the records opened.
Yes.
So that you could prove that you were the plaintiff in this case. So you finally succeeded?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what did you find when you opened these records? I guess you read through, were you reading these things for the first time now?
I'd never seen them before.
You had never seen them?
I didn't know any of the stuff that even went on that was in there. The book is humongous. It's at the Archives building. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at the things that's in the books and stuff, half the words I couldn't comprehend. I mean, there's words and I don't even know what they are, even start to begin what they are, because it's lawyer terms and all that. But some of the documents that I could understand was complete fraud.
Fraud?
They were complete fraud.
Tell us what it said that was not true.
Well, first of all, it said I wanted an abortion. that one of the documents said that I wasn't able to have another child. It would destroy me. That was totally false. Of course, I didn't want another child. I didn't want to be pregnant. I was unstable, but I never even thought about abortion, never even considered it. Also, it said that I went before a panel of 9 doctors and nurses at Grady Memorial Hospital, which that was totally false. I never did. My obstetrician, Dr. Donald Block, supposedly with him and Margie, we sued the state of Georgia for me to have an abortion at Georgia Baptist Hospital.
And you didn't even want one.
I never wanted one and never applied that I knew of.
Well, brothers and sisters, we're hearing a monumental story here. Sandra Cano, the plaintiff in one of the major abortion decisions in the United States, has just told us that she never wanted an abortion, and that, in fact, this case that went to the United States Supreme Court and changed the course of history was based on fraud. We're going to hear more about Sandra's testimony after we return after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Defending Life. This is Father Frank Pavone, and I'm speaking here with Sandra Cano, who was the plaintiff in the Supreme Court decision Doe versus Bolton, issued on the same day as Roe versus Wade. These two decisions together legalizing abortion in America through all 9 months of pregnancy. Sandra, you were telling us that you never actually wanted an abortion, and yet when you opened the records of this court decision, you found that they said that you did, in fact, want an abortion. Could you tell us more about the fraud that apparently is involved in these documents?
Well, as I was saying previously, I had sued supposedly the hospital to have the abortion, and along with Margie Pitts-Haynes and Dr. Donald Block and my mom, up until the night before I was to check into the hospital, they were still saying I was going to have an abortion, even though I was saying no. I ran away to Oklahoma, to Hugo, Oklahoma, to keep from having an abortion. And these records, it stated that I wanted an abortion, that it was going to affect me, that, in other words, from what I gathered out of the information, that maybe even suicide if I had another baby. I couldn't cope with it. That was totally false. None of that was true. And as far as Margie ever coming out and telling me that this was what we were doing and was going to the Supreme Court and for this, I never knew. I never knew any of this. And it's hard for people to understand, but I've been always, never had, when I was out in the world, I was just naive to everything. So it's just hard. I trusted people.
I have a copy of the decision here, and I want to read a line which is at the crux of the matter, because as we know, Roe versus Wade legalized abortion. It was dealing with the laws in Texas and declared them unconstitutional and said that abortion should be allowed. But in this Doe versus Bolton decision, we're dealing in particular with the definition of the word health. And the court says that health is to be understood in a very, very broad and wide way. Let me read the exact words. The medical judgment, and this is the judgment of the physician to allow a woman to have an abortion, even in the 3rd trimester, even in the 7th, 8th, and 9th months of pregnancy, it says the medical judgment may be exercised in the light of all factors, physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and the woman's age, relevant to the well-being of the patient. All these factors may relate to health. So that when people talk about an abortion for the sake of the woman's health, here, because of this decision, it is a wide open door by which a woman can simply come forward and say, well, I want an abortion because I'm being emotionally upset by this pregnancy, or I'm too young. And the door is open. The state cannot even prohibit this abortion in the latest months of pregnancy. When did you come to realize that this was the result of this decision? And how did that make you feel?
Well, I knew that I was involved in it in 73. when it came down the Supreme Court decision, because I was in my mom's bedroom with my stepfather, and they was overjoyed. And like I said, I had doom come over me. I just felt really a heavy weight coming. It wasn't something to be overjoyed about.
It was not a day of victory
No,
for
it
you
wasn't.
when this decision was issued.
And in '74, I went to the Georgia Right to Life. They even got me in contact with an attorney in Fairburn, Georgia. I told him, I went forward to him, I told him, I said, I was involved in this. I do not want to be a part of it. I did not want an abortion. I never wanted one and never had one. But they never helped me. And years later, I've talked to them about it. Off and on, I've tried to do things through the years. But people have turned deaf ears. I mean, I'm the one involved in this, the plaintiff in this.
Right.
And I'm speaking out. And I'm telling the courts, I'm telling everyone, but no one is listening. I mean, you know, they're saying I wanted all this, and this was my petition and all this. Why won't they listen when I'm saying it's false? That's not what I wanted.
Who was it that did want it? Who?
Margie and Tobin Swartz. They, I guess, wanted to, I really don't know what reason other than they just wanted to be a victory on them because they were involved in this situation. I really don't know.
Now, Doe versus Bolton decision came down together with Roe versus Wade, and as we know that the plaintiff in that case, Norma McCorvey, is also pro-life and is also working against abortion. You've met Norma on a number of occasions, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we done a television show on one Passover Friday in Grant Park in Atlanta. And we've met 2 or 3 times since, and I met with her in Chicago this last April.
Right, and that was for the Meet the Abortion Providers Conference with Joe Scheidler's Pro-Life Action League. So I always think of what Norma says. She says, you know, I was used, I was exploited by the abortion industry. They weren't so much interested in me, they were interested in using me to promote the abortion agenda. How do those feelings of Norma compare with yours?
The same. I was the victim. I felt guilty a lot of years, but I'm a victim just like the babies are. The babies are victims. I was a victim because I had no part in it. One thing I'd like to say, they never let me testify. You go before a traffic ticket, you have to go before a judge. Why wasn't this case of such importance that was going to change the laws of the land? Why wasn't I ever asked, you know, was this my true feelings or whatever? I was never questioned before any judge or any law. Only thing, it was my name on paper with Margie Pitt-Haynes.
What do you think now as you see the pro-life movement progressing through the course of the years? And obviously this is still the most divisive social issue in our country. What would you like to do now to try to reverse this monumental problem of abortion that we have? And what are your thoughts about what the pro-life movement should do?
Well, I think everyone should keep on doing what they are doing and just work even harder. And I want to see it reversed. I want to end to abortion. I had a grandbaby that was 4.5 months. My daughter delivered the baby at Georgia Baptist Hospital. His name's Corey Allen. He was under 24 weeks. They refused to give the baby life support. The baby sat there for an hour and a half while my daughter watched the baby die because the baby did not meet the either 24 or 26 weeks before they would try to save the baby. And he didn't weigh a pound. And this is wrong. You know, I feel like life is precious.
Yes.
And any form that it comes, if it's deformed or whatever way that God gives that life, is for purpose, and it should be protected. It should not be ended through abortion. There's plenty of families. We need to quit putting such strict rules on families to adopt on money issues. Put it on the issues that there's love in the home and that they can give the child a home and love. That's what they need. And we need to do that. Give these babies love and give them homes. Don't kill the babies.
Right.
That's what we need.
Well, I'm sure your words are going to have an important impact on those that are listening, those that are viewing. We are talking with the plaintiff in the Doe versus Bolton decision, one of the major abortion decisions of the United States Supreme Court. We will continue talking with her and get some final reflections and some final encouragement for everyone involved in the pro-life effort, and we will do that after we take this short break. Thank you. Welcome back to Defending Life. January 22nd, 1973. Two decisions come down from the Supreme Court. Every January 22nd since then, people from across America have marched on the nation's capital, have gone to the Supreme Court, have demanded that the Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton decisions of that day be overturned, and that all life, from conception to natural death, be protected under the laws of our land. We've been talking with Sandra Cano, and Sandra, when you were the plaintiff in this Doe versus Bolton case, how old were you at that time?
Well, I'm not really sure. I was around 19, 20, 21. I was real young.
Okay, and as you've already told us, you did not seek an abortion, you did not want one, although what you were saying was that you were being pressured
Yes.
to have one, weren't you?
By Margie and the doctor and my mom.
Okay, and you found out later when the records were open that it had been fraudulently said that you were really applying and seeking for an abortion.
There had been a suit placed against Georgia in order for me to have the abortion.
Right.
So undoubtedly they said I done that I was the one suing. I was never aware of it.
You've encouraged the people in the pro-life movement to keep doing what they are doing to turn this around. Have you yourself sought to take any particular action to try to reverse this decision that you were involved in?
Well, I've been trying to speak out. I've tried to get help. I've had lawyers. They couldn't complete it because of financial responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I sent letters to the Supreme Court myself, and I was told I need to get a lawyer, that it was something I need to get a lawyer with.
This is interesting. You sent letters to the Supreme Court justices.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did you send it to Mr. Blackman, who wrote the decision, or just to all of the justices?
I sent one letter to Sandra Cano.
What did you say to her? What were you trying to?
I tried to get across to her that when someone is in turmoil, your life is just totally destroyed, that you feel like there's no way up. You're just down in the gutter. You feel like there's no hope. You're just grasping for air. How can you make a decision to say, I want to go abort a baby? How can some girl do that? They shouldn't allow that, because abortion, if I had have wanted one and I had have had one, it would have totally destroyed me. It's something you can't erase. You can live with adoption because there's always the hope of being reunited with your baby, which that happened with me. But with abortion, there's never any hope. I mean, it's a memory you're going to have. You're never going to know why you did it or why you didn't stop yourself. You're going to have the guilt that it's a lot of women are having emotional problems because they have had abortions. It's something you can't erase. That's going to be there forever.
Yes. I like the emphasis that you're placing on adoption. As you know, many of the efforts in the pro-life movement and beyond are trying to make adoption less cumbersome, and it certainly is a rewarding experience for those who go through it. The children do very well, and let's pray that your words here today will encourage people to take another look at adoption. I want to say a prayer for you and give you a blessing, because as you've told us, you have been yourself wounded, hurt, used by people in this country who were trying to push an agenda and more interested in seeing abortion go forward than in seeing real people like you get real help. So I want all our viewers now to join in a prayer for you and for all those like you. You have a special position of prominence. You're involved here in the history of our country with this decision. But you represent so many women who are trapped, are used by abortion.
Powerful, powerful story. And of course, with Sandra, she worked her entire life to have that decision overturned. And in fact, when she requested the copies of the documents from the court and eventually saw them, her signature was forged. That was not her signature on those documents. So her signature was even forged on some of the paperwork. It's incredible, those two stories of Norma McCorvey and Sandra Cano, and how much they parallel each other. Both women weren't at that moment actually, well, in Sandra's case, she actually fled the state to have her baby because her mother wanted her to abort this baby. And she really had no family wanting to help her, except she had a relative all the way out in Oklahoma. Sandra fled to Oklahoma to have that baby. And she worked, like I said, her entire life to see this decision overturned. And just like Norma, they both passed on, unable to see this decision overturned. But you, my brothers and sisters, you can do something about it. If you'd like to, first of all, know more about Sandra and her story, you can go to our Priests for Life website, priestsforlife.org/Sandra. We have special pages up there with more information about Sandra Cano. But it also gives you a reason to say, what can I be doing? Well, I'd like you to, first of all, to come to our Priests for Life website every day. We have action alerts there, and sign up to get our action alerts, because even though we're all quarantined right now, there are things we could be doing to bring an end to abortion. We can learn how to talk about this topic in a more pro-life way. We can learn how to reach out to people who are pregnant and in need. Even now, during this pandemic, the abortion clinics are remaining opened. And women are still going out there having abortions, but we could be the people to stand up for them and say, wait, you don't have to have an abortion. There's pregnancy help centers. There's people willing to help you. So I want to, again, speak the truth about Sandra Cano, speak the truth about Norma McCorvey, and don't be afraid to stand up for the unborn.
I want to be a fireman when I grow up. I want to be a teacher.
I want to be president of the United States.
I want to find a cure for cancer.
The choice to have an abortion alters the course of the future. Please remember, where there's life, there's hope. A message from Priests for Life.